This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
And by Ting.com. Head over to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device.
Welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 29, Episode 1. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Should I tell folks about the big show today?
Yes.
All right, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, we're going to take a look at a web technology that's coming up quick that you might just think is good for Google Hangouts or maybe a video chat. I'm talking about WebRTC. Turns out it is going to be an incredible change to web applications, and Linux is going to be a first-class citizen, and we're going to show you some of the cool things you can already do with WebRTC. It's just recently hit the stable browsers, Firefox and Chrome.
Nice.
So we're going to play around with it and then give you the links and more information to go follow up on your own. I think you're really going to enjoy this. If you've been kind of shoving WebRTC off to the side.
As a lot of people have.
Yeah, as I did.
Yeah.
But, you know, just recently I started to dig into it thinking, we could probably use WebRTC here at the Jupiter Broadcasting Network to take calls, to maybe do some of our host stuff, because you can...
That'd be cool.
Well, I'll get into it. There's a lot of possibilities, so we started digging into it this week and then decided we've got to talk about this with the Linux crew. Plus, coming up in the news segment, we've got specs for Steam hardware. We got some mirror troubles and some Tor network troubles.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And then in the feedback segment, Charlie wants to know why all Linux distros suck.
Wow, really? Tell us how you really feel.
I know, so we'll see if we can't walk him down from that ledge, because I think he's a little upset these days, man.
Just a little bit. But
first, it is our picks, and we have a really fun Runs Linux. Almost made the pick recently. I decided to wait because, you know, I'm a little scared of the drones, Matt. But now we're going to talk
about drones, or not the clowns.
Send in the drones. So here it is the OpenROV Express Aquarius, and it runs Linux. Yes, Matt.
Wow.
This is an underwater drone that goes faster and longer than its previous iterations, and it is powered by Linux. And we got a little clip of it here. You can see.
That's pretty cool looking. I like that.
Look at that thing.
He's really going.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't take a research grant to do exploration. It should take curiosity, and that's what we're all about.
So with the OpenROV, they think they can build an underwater drone for 850 bones.
Whoa!
Yeah, 850 U.S.
Well, that
bones.
opens up a lot of doors for various people that are on, you know, tight numbers crunch. You know.
Sure, and it's the basic kit you can get around 245.
Seriously?
It's got Wi-Fi. Of course, the Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily work underwater.
Yeah, who'd have thought, right? Yeah, the whole radio wave thing.
But how much do you love the idea of like something like this coming down to a level where like, hey kids, let's go to the beach this weekend and we'll bring our drone and it can go swim underwater for us and take pictures of stuff.
You know, when I was a kid, all we had for the bathtub toys was Mr. Scuba. But kids these days are going to be all spoiled with their underwater drones and whatnot. I mean, what the hell, right?
It's got an Arduino microcontroller in it, and it comes in some. It comes in actually. It looks. I'm sure I couldn't, but it looks like one of those things I could probably assemble myself.
Whoa!
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah. So and then it's right now they've got this is a remote control they're going to be revamping a little bit, but they've got like an RC remote controller.
Sure.
It's got cameras that it's equipped with. It's got some like that Arduino. You can do certain things based on it, and I'm sure as they move forward, you'll be able to run Nginx or Apache on this thing, maybe BitTorrent.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, no kidding. It's like I'm secure from all the MPEAA or whatever it is, and because I'm running this underwater. I mean, they can't get me.
Oh, there was a really good perspective there. You see that? You see the size of it there. You get a good. And you get a good example.
It's a little tiny thing. Okay.
Right, you could have a whole army of them.
Oh,
right?
Dude, I need an army of these.
Oh yeah, so you could have your pirate bays of the world running out in a whole mesh network of these in the ocean, and maybe we could then say the ocean runs Linux. But we're not there
cloud
yet.
Underwater in your bathtub. It could totally happen.
That's right. Yeah, where do you store your server? Oh, in my bathtub.
Yeah. So I don't really. Yeah, I do.
Maybe in the future, Matt. Maybe in the future. Anyway, so Linux will now be helping explore the underwater treasures.
Yes.
And thanks to the OpenROV. It looks really nice.
Oh, I'd play the hell out of that.
I kind of want one. So if anybody out there has one of these, go ahead and send it in to us. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Just go ahead and ship that right on over.
It also can be hooked up with a USB cable for downloads. The camera can be, it has a rotating camera with HD video.
I'm going to wager you want to USB it when it's out of the water, though.
It's got laser range finders.
Ooh. Lasers.
And, of course, you can also sync up with Wi-Fi. And look at that picture quality. That's from the drone. Look at that.
Whoa. Holy
Look at that. How incredible is that? That actually looks amazing,
Well,
doesn't
if this is from inside his bathtub, I mean, clearly, right?
I think this is his fish tank,
It could be his fish tank. Yeah. That's quite a fish tank. I'm just saying. Oh, I would totally rock that. If especially if you could, like, throw in some sonar or something cool, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be neat.
So you can find more at oneworldoneocean.com, I believe is the URL. It's got all kinds of specs too. I think this is an interesting use. Oh, here it is. Here's all the parts. I was looking for this. These are the core parts. Not all of the parts, but these are the core parts. Here's the Arduino board. Here's your zip ties. You got to have good zip ties and a little bit of rope, right?
Well, I'm looking for duct tape because you can't put something together properly unless you have proper application of duct tape.
I think you got to supply your own duct tape.
Boy, but I'll tell you, that if it actually comes laid out like that in like a package to where I'm not going to lose everything, I might actually try.
There's the camera. Look at that.
Ooh,
yeah.
Oh,
so there's
wow.
the camera.
That's
right there.
not bad.
Yeah, and there's the Beagle board.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and there's the 200 megabits power line adapter. I wonder what they use that for.
Probably not.
Cool.
Again, not in the water. I'm going to wager kids.
Probably
Don't try
not.
this at home.
Probably not. And then of course you got your serial port. You got to have your serial port too. For when your USB doesn't work.
Right.
So there you go, kids. You got drones now in the ocean running Linux.
Bathtub Toys 2.0.
Something tells me ocean drones. Got to be big.
I think that's going to be a big deal. I mean, like you said, swimming pools and whatnot. It'd be kind of cool.
Well, yeah. Of course, we'll just dance right past the military applications. For
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about just trolling other folks.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
We're military. Yeah.
So, I got a good pick this week, Matt, and I thought maybe what we'd do is I'd show something. People have been asking me. In fact, I got a request on Twitter this week. Says, Chris, what do you use to do some of your audio production under Linux?
Right.
And I have an app that I use almost on a daily basis to collect clips for the Unfiltered show. I used it to make the music, or to put together the music for the Jupiter Signal Audio Edition. I use it all the time, and it's also cross-platform. It's a really, really good audio editor, and it's not Audacity.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's because it's usually like everybody's go-to thing.
Did you think I was building to reveal Audacity?
I think the audience may have been.
And it's called Audacity.
No. You have the audacity to show us Audacity.
It's not a total Audacity replacement, but if you need to trim audio, you need to... I'll show you. I think you'll be pretty impressed by it. But before we get to that, I want to thank our first sponsor this week, and that would be GoDaddy.com. Now, I got to tell you a little story. We got this great deal. If you use the code SHOW199 when you check out, you're going to get a .com for $1.99.
Nice.
$1.99.com. That's giving away .coms. That's real estate on the internet that they're just giving to you. Additional years, $9.99. Still a great deal. Additional .coms after that first $1.99, $9.99. So here I was, Matt. Just, on my phone, like I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do that. And using the GoDaddy app. And I'm just thinking, I'm waiting, killing some time while I wait for the wife. And I'm thinking, gosh, I should buy this .com. I got a little idea, something I want to do.
Right, yep. I have those.
So here I am, Matt, and I'm typing in the domain I want to get. I'm about to get the checkout. And then all of a sudden, my phone starts to shake. It gets really hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what is going on? This is getting
like
too
just
hot.
Vibrating. Like, this isn't a vibrate alert. It's like...
Have you ever seen Adventures of Superman where he vibrates so fast and so hard he can actually pass through walls?
No.
Yeah, there's an Adventures of Superman where Lois and Jimmy are stuck in a shack, and Superman's got to get in there, so he vibrates through the wall without having to bust it. Well, Van Damme can do the same thing.
Holy cow.
Jean-Claude Van Damme comes right out. First of all, I'm like, what's going on? Right? What's going on, man?
Your phone's all doing the jig here.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, man, it's about to blow up. My battery's about to go, man. Oh, no. No, first thing, of course.
Sure.
Of course. Jean-Claude's foot comes right out. Jean-Claude's his foot comes out. Hits me in the face. He's kicking it up a notch. He says, what are you doing? I am Jean-Claude Van Damme. And, he didn't look like he does on the GoDaddy website. I think he just dressed up like that for the photo shoot because he was much scarier when it came out of my phone.
Oh, my gosh.
And he had a huge weapon that didn't shoot bullets. It shot $1.99.coms.
Whoa.
Yeah. So once it comes out of my phone, he just starts shooting $1.99.coms at me and says, what are you doing? Get a .com for $1.99. So I just wanted to pass that along. I don't know if he does that for everybody or if that's just because, we're close personal friends. But I feel like he might if you don't use our code SHOW199. And I don't want you to get kicked in the face. No. Because while I get kicked in the face.
That's his way of sharing. I mean, yeah.
I got kicked in the face so you don't have to. You see what I did? I got kicked in the face.
He took a foot for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So use the code SHOW199 when you're checking out over at GoDaddy.com, or even easier, just click that banner in our show notes for any episode of Linux Action Show. You hit that, it'll pre-charge your shopping session with that $1.99.com. It is a major score.
Yeah.
I call that the definition of a score. So go over there before you get kicked in the face and kick things up a notch. If you're a small business, a team, or even an individual, GoDaddy's got something that'll get you covered. Email, web hosting, website builder, and of course domain names with SHOW199. So thanks to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
That's something I do is I like to actually, I'll get a lot of these ideas and I will actually collect the domains and then let them age a little bit and then come back to revisit them and get some hosting and go for it.
I have a nice collection of .coms. And then every now and then I come up with something, I'm like, you know what, I could use my existing .com for that. I pull it out of the .com attic in the .com storage.
Yes.
Which I believe is guarded personally by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh my gosh.
Personally guarded by Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, I don't know. I guess somebody just kept breaking into GoDaddy's data centers and stealing great deals for us.
Yeah.
So now we had.
I'm okay with that. So he's guarding things.
Yeah,
and
he's
making
guarding
sure
things
only
now.
people that he's authorized, such as you guys.
Yeah.
That can
And
get these
kicking
deals.
those in the face who don't.
That's right.
You know, that's an important thing, Matt.
It is.
Getting kicked in the face.
Definitely.
All right, so let me go through our first pick this week, and it is. How do you suppose you say this?
Ooh,
Oaken Audio?
Like my
Oaken?
brain wants to say ocean, but
Ocean.
that's not right. Yeah,
Right.
it's Ocean.
It's OCEN. OCEN Audio. It's all one word. It's Oaken Audio, I guess, is how you're going to say it. And it is, like I mentioned earlier, a cross-platform, easy-to-use, fast and functional audio editor. It is the ideal software for people who need to edit and analyze audio files without complications. And I agree with that statement wholeheartedly, Matt. In fact, why don't I demo it for you? What do you think?
Let's see a demo of this, because I know a lot of other audio editing apps, you open them up, you fool that you're lost in features and functionality you may not want or need.
No, sir, that is not the case. So here it is. It's got a nice UI, and you can. It also reads files pretty quickly. So I've got several files here that I've been trying out or working on.
Sure.
So here is like the Jupyter Signal intro. You see, it brings that file in real quick.
Okay.
Right? Brings that one in super quick. Now here is here's a slightly longer. Let's see. Let's find a little longer one. Yeah. Here's a really long one. Congressional hearing on national security officials testifying on reforming the FISA court, which is the people who oversight the NSA and their spying.
Oh, nice
This
little
is
loading bar there.
Yeah, it's got a very, very well done. It's just like a 2-hour and something clip.
And it's pulling it in. For the audio listeners, it's actually coming in at quite a breakneck speed.
Right, and one of the other things it'll do once it is loaded is it will immediately display the waveform. Now, even like in professional tools like Apple's Logic or Adobe's Audition, even after the file has been imported, the program sits there and chugs for minutes while it tries to figure out the waveform. Whereas you can see right here, it's got the waveform figured out real nice and quick. Now, the real power comes in when you just want to grab a clip. So this is great like if you wanted to get something for a ringtone or you wanted to get a clip of like Dianne Feinstein saying something really stupid. So you can see as I zoom in, the waveform gets more accurate, and then I have this guide bar along the top where I can scrub the entire
that
timeline.
I like, because that's one thing about like Audacity that drives me nuts is the controls are kind of painful to use.
And I'm just using
This is really nice.
I'm just using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out here.
Oh, seriously? So,
Yeah. And then here's a great clip of where they start to say something on mic and they realize they weren't supposed to. So if I wanted to, I click right in here. So you can hear here it is.
Somebody objected. So objected.
And then she flips off the mic, right? So if I wanted to cut this dead air out for the clip I was going to play on Filter or something like that, I just highlight this area right here. And what's really cool about Oaken Audio is if you hold down Control, you can also simultaneously highlight another area in the clip. So you can have multiple highlights going.
Oh, like you would in a file manager, like with multiple files.
And I just deleted both those gaps.
that's cool.
With one keystroke, right?
So you're actually getting more function. You're able to do things quicker, faster, and more effectively.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you've also got a ton of really nice, powerful features. Like maybe I've decided I need to bring this up a little bit, so I can increase the gain right here. And I have like very nice sliders. I can apply normalize, and you can preview your effect before you apply it. Not too unusual, but just really nice to have.
And it's easy to get to.
Very. And then you can also you can export it as a lot of different file formats. You can do MP3, you can do OGG, of course, but you've also got some really great ones in here. Like you could go out to WAV, you could go out to a PCM file, you could go out to a next sound file if you wanted to, an AAC, a DTS file for surround sound, a FLAC file if you wanted it to be as lossless as possible.
The surround sound would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So a lot of times I'll go in here and I've actually it is so easy to use that I've actually clipped files during a live show and then just played that clip section, because the other thing I can do is I can say, well, I just want to play this section of Bruce Schneier's talk at TED.
We have no choice but to accept the default configuration.
Now there is a little audio scratchiness that happens sometimes with Oaken Audio, and in fact it just came out right there.
Most of us, though, are stuck in the middle. Right? We don't have the technical ability to evade the large governments and corporations on one side or the criminal hacker groups on the other.
So that might be a great clip that I want to just grab that moment of, right?
And you can do it on the fly, just real easy.
Oh yeah, and I can go in here and I can trim just to that selection, and so now I have just that clip.
Most of us.
And it's, again, every now and then it has this little audio scratchiness problem.
Most of us,
but it's still in development. They're still releases.
Yeah, and that's every audio editor seems to have its own little quirks.
Oh yeah, they do.
So this is what I used. In fact, if people are watching live during the Jupyter Signal, this is the clip that I made of the Jupyter Signal intro song. And see, so what I did is I trimmed it so the song starts right there at the right moment, so that way Angela can say, this is the Jupiter signal. So she starts right here. And then I faded it down here at the end, so it kind of fades off into the distance. And you can highlight so it plays just the sections you want.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's really cool. And I love the little sound meter.
The little sound meter down there at the bottom is great, isn't it?
Because it allows you to see, it's like, okay, we're kind of popping into the red a little
And
more.
I can mute the left channel and the right channel individually if I want to see how that sounds. Very fast, cross-platform. I love this program. I've been using it now for about 2 months, and every clip I have on the Unfilter show, and for our intro clips, I bring it into this, I process it, I bring the levels up, I normalize it if I need to. So then that way, all of my clips are consistent. They all play at the same volume level and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I also noticed there's like a little magnifying glass there, I suppose. It's a search feature.
No, you can zoom in really tight.
So that's your zoom. Okay,
yeah,
well, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can get in so tight that you're actually like looking at the real individual
wow.
And it'll do the really cool thing about it too is you can do some analysis. So you can say, take a look at my audio and then find where there's hum.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, and then
that's great.
And then you can actually go in with a selector brush and you can select that hum and you can remove it from the audio file. It's not always perfect. You really got to work with it closely, but
take some skill.
Because certain sounds are in certain frequency ranges, you can go out and just eliminate that frequency range using this program. So if you record like a podcast or something like that, and there's an electrical hum in there, you're not going to be able to save it all together. Right. But using this program, you can go in there and you can look for where that frequency range is, and you can just remove that entire frequency range from the file.
I like that idea. I really love that idea because it gives you some control over the whole experience.
See, here's the spectral analysis here. As you can see, this is and if we do it on let's go into like Bruce Schneier's clip here, okay, where I kind of clipped it down, and I'll undo my trim, so I've got my full. And by the way, it's non-destructive, so I just undid the trim that I did earlier, which is really nice.
And non-destructive is in that it doesn't actually alter the original file,
right? Okay. Until I save it out, and then once I save it out, it'll remove it.
Oh, that's cool. And it allows you to undo if you want to go backwards, I suppose.
Yeah. So you see down here this second line that almost looks like if you're watching the Ghost Files.
I was about to say that. It's like, oh yeah, totally Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters, exactly. So this right here, you could find individual range frequencies in here and remove them. So this is where you would see the hum in this lower spectrum here, and you could.
You just look at the visual and say, okay, I can identify that as such.
Now, I don't actually have any great clips that have a hum because that's not how I roll. But if I did, you'd actually be able to you can actually visually see the hum in your audio file here.
That would be neat. Maybe we should record ourselves some really like badly done ghost-y stuff and like get some hum in there and kind of play with it. It'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, the new Jupiter Broadcasting show, Ghost Hunters. That'd be great.
That would be hysterical. Yeah, totally.
Oh, and I didn't even mention, I sort of just glossed right over this. This is really, this is my go-to audio editor now on the Linux. So if you use Linux, check this out. This is really cool. So it supports drag and drop, and one of the things that's nice is it doesn't have to be. It's not very picky on what you decide to go with. So let's say I go in and let's go look at one of the latest files that I've grabbed for next week's Unfilter. This Bruce Schneier clip here is a video file, right? So this is a TEDx video file of Bruce Schneier. And you don't have to export that out to a WAV file before you edit it. You just drag and drop it into the editor, and it will import the audio track from the MP4 file into the editor.
Oh, that's a nice feature.
Yeah, so I'm actually editing a video file's audio file. It's an AAC file, and I'm in here and I'm able to extract the audio I want, and then I can save that out to an OGG or MP3 file.
I like that.
So if there's an audio track to a YouTube video, you could use last week's pick, Minitube, to download the video, which is how I got that Bruce Schneier clip, and then you can use this week's clip to extract the audio from that video.
That is super cool.
Yeah, the two go together.
It's got a great layout. It's got full of functionality. And it's worth checking out.
Yeah, it's really well designed, and so far it's been pretty rock solid too.
Sweet.
So Oaken, I think is how you say it.
It's got a good-looking webpage, and I'm really digging the little screaming monkey-looking guy. That's what I would have called the app myself. I just call it Screaming Monkey.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
he's rocking too.
He's rocking too.
So there's an example of the where you can you can see the different range of the audio. This heat down here might be one thing, and then up at the top might be maybe where you can almost see this break in the audio file here midway.
Right.
So you might be able to. So you might be able to say is eliminate all this stuff on the top. Eliminate this 60 hertz buzz here on the top or something like that.
I almost wonder if this could be used. Like, I read a lot of articles and such where people are trying to remove vocals from various songs and things like that, to where maybe you can find those frequencies.
Maybe
if it's steady.
It'd be pretty rough, but you might be able to.
Yeah, it'd be pretty rough, but it'd be interesting to kind of play it just to see what it's capable of.
All right, Matt. So the spotlight this week. Two apps that I love a lot from the same company. They're open source, and they just saw updates this week. Now, you might remember Geary.
I do remember Geary.
That's from the folks over at Yobrba, Y-O-R-B-A, and they just released a new version of Geary and Shotwell.
Sweet.
Ironically, these, I believe, are sort of developed with Elementary OS in mind.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that.
Although you can't get these new versions on Elementary OS. However, you can on Arch.
Wow.
And that's what I'm running right now. So let's start with Shotwell. You know, I'm not going to do a full review on Shotwell. You guys are familiar with it. But there are a couple of new highlights in Shotwell 0.15. You can copy and paste color adjustments between photos, which is super nice.
That is very
So if you
cool.
make all your tweaks in one photo and you took all the photos in the same park outside.
What a time saver. It's almost like a filtery type deal that you can just like apply.
They got a new YouTube plugin which supports OAuth, so you don't have to give the program your Google username and password anymore.
Cool.
Missing video files that the old version used to skip over are now properly imported, and there's also been numerous bug fixes. And here's a little demo of it. So this here is Shotwell, and you might be familiar with that, Matt. I'm sure. But
I'm definitely familiar with Pancake.
Yeah.
But Shotwell, yes.
that's these are Pamela's pancakes at that too. Doesn't that look good?
That looks great.
Took that with my HTC One. That shot.
It came out really good, and I love the way the pictures. So you can navigate back and forth between pictures with your arrows.
Yeah,
so super awesome. You got your thumbnail view there,
and you got So Shotwell is a fantastic, very fast photo viewer. It gives you the ability to jump in and kind of get through your photos really nice and fast. And it also automatically will go through and it'll tag the date.
That's cool.
It'll also, you can break it out by folder, all that kind of stuff. So Shotwell's excellent. There's see, like here's me and the kiddos, and you can do enhance, you can do you can straighten, you can do red eye.
So it's got some quickie fixes. So it's like, okay, I want to eliminate the red eye. I want to kind of clean up the photo a little bit. You got some quick buttons for that. That's cool.
So like here's a horrible photo I took here, and
it's still
let's enhance it a little bit, so you can see it brings out the contrast a little bit. Yeah. So that's Shotwell, new update.
A little easier to use in GIMP, you know?
Well, and it's just great for like, because what I like to do is, and I'm going to try to get away from this, but what I've been doing is I have been importing my photos via BitTorrent Sync.
Oh, okay.
So I run BitTorrent Sync on my phone, and every photo I take, BitTorrent Sync then syncs to my Bonobo.
Okay, like you may have done maybe in years past with Dropbox, you're now able to do that.
Right. And so then I just point Shotwell at the BitTorrent Sync camera upload folder. And then Shotwell, when I run it, just updates itself, and now all the photos I've taken with my HTC One.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I also, I've also played around with the Dropbox solution too, like you said before. So then we have Geary, and Geary is the mail client of choice for me, simply because I have a very large inbox, and I love Thunderbird. In fact, I use Thunderbird a lot still, especially when I want to use GPG.
Right.
Geary does not have GPG support yet. But they did just release a new version of Geary, and it's got some nice new features in it.
I like new features.
Per account, full text search, which is great because I have multiple accounts, and some of them are huge, and I don't need to search the huge one.
Right.
Automatic saving of drafts. They got a updated.
That's a big one with me.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it. An updated UI, which is even nicer than before. They've now got some more controls over loading external images, so that way people can't flag your account as active, like if they send you a spam email with a picture in there. Better handling. They also do some link checking now to see if it's a phishing attack. Hundreds of bug fixes, and they're now using libsecret to store the password instead of GNOME keyring, which for me just seems to actually work a little smoother.
Yeah.
I've had some keyring issues of recent.
Keyring is terrible. Yeah.
And here is the. I won't bore you with my demonstration of my favorite mail client, but. It is very nice looking. I mean, here it is.
Very tidy. I like the fact you got a nice, for audio listeners, you got a 3-pane solution here. You got your.
There's you and I talking about the show last night, and it breaks things out in the important section. So like if things get tagged by Google as important, for some reason a Roku customer satisfaction was tagged as important.
That's very important.
That's Google. That's not Geary.
Right. Yeah.
It's got the new gear menu for setting your preferences. Very minimal preferences. This is
that is very elementary OS, and I actually kind of like that. Yeah. I really kind of like that actually.
So that's the new Geary, and I just got to give it a hearty recommendation if you haven't tried it out yet. It's really, really quite nice, and it has just hit 0.4. Not even 1.0 yet, and it's getting really feature-rich.
It's getting really good. I love the fact that it's importing your Google setup as far as your folder hierarchy and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. And I see, for me, like here's a great example of where it won't load the images, so that way Newegg doesn't know that Newegg doesn't know if I've got this or not. But if I want to, I can say show images, and then it'll load in all of the stuff, which works quite well. And I prefer that. It helps keep the spam down to a minimum in your inbox because. Now, see, now Newegg knows that that's a live account.
Yep, so they know to continue to send you deals.
You're welcome, everybody. I did that for you. So those are two new apps from the Yobrba folks.
Yes.
And I say go check them out. I know Thunderbird's awesome.
Thunderbird is awesome. See, this is my thing with Thunderbird. It's like I've got mine so hacked together. I'm trying to make it like a PIM solution, almost like an evolution alternative, because I got like a calendar blended in there, and it's trying to do all this stuff. But to be honest with you, if you're just looking for a good email client, I think Geary is frankly superior. I'm kind of coming to that conclusion myself.
There you go. Well, it's especially for like just getting into a large inbox, grabbing what you need, and getting out. I like it quite a bit. I want to give a special plug to Linux Unplugged, our other Linux podcast we do here, and it's on Tuesdays. This week we did, or I guess actually now it's last week.
Yeah, it was last week.
Episode 8 was Cloud Guilt, and I thought this episode turned out really well, so I wanted to give it a recommendation to you folks. But, we talk a lot about open source software on the desktop. We talk about a server-side stuff, but one of the things we don't talk about a lot is all of these cloud services we connect to are generally closed.
Exactly, and how much trust we're putting in them, how much we rely on them, how much we use them, and whether or not we need to reevaluate that stance.
And should Linux users feel some guilt for using the cloud? I'll admit it. I feel guilty when I use Dropbox.
I do, yeah, and I just in general, I take it for granted and I'm not really thinking it through as much as I should.
Yeah, So we hashed through that, and I actually think we kind of came to a happy Zen spot towards the end.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we kind of came to grips with where each of us have our comfort level.
Yeah, so that was episode 8 of Linux Unplugged. Linux Unplugged is live on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific over at jblive.tv, and then released for download a little bit after that. You can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to see the specifics in your time zone.
Super awesome, very laid back. It's a completely different show. I really recommend checking it out.
Yeah, it's picking up really well.
Yeah.
So we've gotten some favorable reviews, and a lot of the podcast directories have it listed highly in their technology section.
Nice. Yeah, cool.
It's pretty cool. All right, Matt, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Matt, Ting is mobile that makes sense. Ting, hold it up proud, Matt. Ting is our mobile service provider. And now, everybody knows Ting is the mobile service provider that is a no BS mobile service provider. In fact, Ting is no contracts, no early termination fees. How's that?
That is awesome.
Ting also has included hotspot and tethering.
That's right.
No overage penalties. You only pay for what you use. You don't prepay for a big bundle of minutes. And this is probably the biggest reason why Ting is a sponsor of the Linux Action Show, as well as several other Jupiter Broadcasting shows, is because Ting knows that you guys are the exact kind of audience that gets it. Not everybody understands that the duopoly that we have in the carrier industry really has zero incentive to make a good experience for the end user.
They don't care.
They provide the absolute minimum at the absolute maximum price. And this has been one of these arrangements that is customer abuse, in my opinion, and it's only getting worse, and Ting is trying to shake this up, and they know that you guys appreciate and understand that these carriers are trying to take advantage of you. They're exploiting you because you want these new toys or these mobile communications devices or business platforms, whatever you want to call it. They know that you need the goods, and so that way they can just rake you over the coals for it. Not Ting, though.
No.
Ting is mobile that makes sense. Go over to last.ting.com and get started with $25 off your first device. Or if you bring your own device, your first month of service, you got an email from a guy this morning who got an Evo 4G because he has great WiMAX coverage in his area. And so he went with the Evo 4G. And he's going to be paying, on average, $21 a month for that line.
Nice.
$21. And here's another example of how Ting is really different than all of the other mobile service providers. Ting is accessible. If you go to ting.com/hangout, they have a dedicated page where the Ting crew does routine hangouts to answer their customers' questions directly.
That's really cool. I mean, it's not only transparent, but it's actually talking with you instead of at you.
Exactly. Answering your questions, hard or easy.
Yes.
And, of course, they also have fantastic customer service. You can call them between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern at 1-855-TING-FTW, and they actually answer the phone. And it's so funny, we say this in every ad read.
Yeah.
And
yet, people got to understand, it really happens. Not only are they using for the win in their phone number, which is like, that is so cool. But, so these are clearly Reddit folks. But as well as the fact that they're actually really willing to work with you.
Yeah, and every email we get, they're like, what's so funny, too, is like, a lot of times they'll tell me the Ting representative's name. Like, they have an actual customer relationship experience that they walk away from and say, holy crap, that was great.
They treated me like a person.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So here's one of the ways Ting does that is their amazing rates program. You just pay for what you use. So they'll break out your minutes, your text message, your megabytes, and then whatever bucket you fall into at the end of the month, you'll be charged that. You can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like with this Ting rates page over here, where you can kind of say, I might use 100 minutes, or I might use 1,000 minutes. You plug in what you're going to get. So let's say hypothetically, let's say you want 1,000 minutes a month. That'd be their large package. And you probably want about 1,000 messages a month,
probably
right?
about that.
And you want 1,000 megabytes a month.
Oh, at least, yes.
Now, that 1,000 megabytes includes hotspot and tethering right on your phone. You just turn it on. You don't have to be in some sort of special plan. Nice. You don't have to call up and ask for permission. Please, sir, can I please have hotspot and tethering?
It's an Oliver Twist-free environment. There's none of this stuff. It just works.
Exactly. And that plan right there, 1,000 minutes, 1,000 messages, and 1,000 megabytes a month, $53.
Woo!
$53, Matt. That's an outrageously good deal. Average Ting bill, $21.
That's crazy cheap.
Yeah. Unlimited devices on one plan. You can have a shared pool of minutes. You just pay for what you use. I was looking over here at this Moto X. Beautiful new Android phone. Unlocked. You buy this, it's off contract, it's unlocked. You own this thing. You know, Michael Dominic from Coda Radio just picked one of these up.
Yep, we were talking about this earlier.
Now, how am I not going to get a Moto X?
Oh, my goodness. It's on like Donkey Kong.
It seriously is. This is, oh, man. I really think the Moto X is a good balance of smart and performance and features. But there's a lot of great devices over at Ting, including some used devices. You can pick up a used device for a fantastic deal. They have a concierge service that will find one for you. But there's tons of really, I've been recommending the Samsung Galaxy S3. Now, people are like, but Chris, the S4 is out. Well, this S3,
right.
$221 off contract.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the real takeaway here is that you own the phone out the door for a couple $100.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right?
That is the ultimate savings. In fact, if you really want to see what kind of savings you're going to get, go over to last.ting.com. Click on that, how much would you save? That's the savings calculator. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a great deal. Oh, man, look how much money I'm going to save.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you about something else, Matt. Go over to ting.com/ I think it's ETF. I might have that. No, it is. It's ting.com/ETF. This is the details about the early termination relief program. So everything I've told you about Ting is fantastic, right? This is, in my opinion, the icing on top of that.
I think Ting realizes that, you know, their prospective customers are too big to fail. You guys are important, and so they want to make that transfer as easy and as painless as possible.
You grab a device, you port your number, and then you submit your claim, and Ting will give you up to $75 per device.
That's right.
That really,
I mean, that actually affects, especially if you got multiple devices. I mean,
I really think this is going to be fantastic.
Awesome.
And like the chat room says, you could grab an old S2 and you could dual boot Firefox OS on.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, that's an awesome recommendation, Cheese Bacon. You know, I got a question about this last week after the last episode. Somebody said, "What's Ting's stance on like things like Firefox OS and rooting your own phone?"
It's a great question, actually.
Ting is so cool. So Ting doesn't have like some sort of ulterior motive. In fact, Ting is happy considering themselves your mobile ISP, which is
awesome because that's what you want.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they actually have a dedicated forum called Hacking, where there's people out there just trying different things on their phones.
So this is a Ting-hosted forum talking about hacking your phone. That is so cool.
And there's threads in there right now about people trying out Firefox OS on a Ting device.
Yeah, good luck finding it elsewhere. I'm just saying, that's awesome.
Right? I know. And the fact that like they're not actively trying to squash it. In fact, here's a spot for you guys. Here's a playground. Yeah. Share ideas, share information. So go over to last.ting.com. Take $25 off your first month if you bring your own device, or $25 off your first device if you want to grab one of those excellent Ting devices, which are off contract. You
join us, be one of us.
Become part of the Ting Club.
Yes.
Ting, ting. Thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Right.
Okay, Matt. Okay. Let's start with some real good news. We're going to get into some good news, and then some bad news, and then we're going to end on a high note.
A little bit of a roller coaster.
But we got to start out with probably the one that whenever we have an opportunity to cover a big migration at the top of the news docket, I'm going to take it. French National Police switched 37,000 desktops to Linux.
Oh, that's no small number.
No, and it's interesting because I think, Matt, as we dig through the details here, you'll find that they were pretty smart about the way they did it. So first of all, they did the approach that we've talked about quite a bit on this show, where it's sort of a slow ramp up. They started on the Windows machines, running your open source software.
Makes sense.
Your open offices, your Firefox.
Right. It allows people to acclimate to these new environments and these new tools. Sure.
They said it made the switch less abrupt. They first moved cross-platform open source applications, such as OpenOffice, Firefox, and Thunderbird. That allowed employees to keep using the Windows while they got used to the new application.
Interesting.
So then only after that did the agency move them to Linux. The migration started in 2004.
Oh, wow. So this is definitely, they took a slow ramp to it, but that's probably a good thing.
In 2008, they had switched 5,000 folks over to a Linux OS based on Ubuntu. It's like their own deal. Then after that, they stepped it up pretty aggressively to get to the 37,000 number we're at now.
Wow.
And this is just an example of I feel like this happens outside the U.S.
Oh yeah, I'm noticing that happens. Like, and for them, it's usually they don't make a lot of drama about it. I mean, it's like, look, this is benefiting us. We're going to do it.
What's interesting, right? A good point. So what's interesting about this is sometimes when you see these, they're PR releases, right? And it's usually like Red Hat's like, look, man, yeah, we'll give you a licensing deal if you make a big PR splash about how we hooked you up, you know. Right. And then like it's kind of a tit for tat. I'm not, maybe that's going on here, but since it's their own Linux distro, it's not like some other vendor came in and said, hey, let's promote this. They're just saying, hey, we're saving up to 40% of what we were saving. They say the agency's total cost of ownership of Linux and open source applications is about 40% less than proprietary software from Microsoft. This is according to an article published on the European Union's Interoperability Solutions for Public Administration website.
That is crazy. And it seems like this happens more, as you said, more and more outside of the U.S.
Why do you suppose that is?
You know, I don't know. I think part of it is...
Is it the Microsoft Club here in the States?
Yeah, it's what we're... I think the fact that they want to have their own environment, their own... something that's not attached to us centrally, I think is a big motivation for them. And, of course, cost is a big thing. They're willing to look at the big picture. We're here in the U.S., it's kind of like, we're a Windows shop. It works for us. We're lazy. I don't know. There's probably a variety of tie-in reasons that I'm not touching on, but I'm not sure they exist. But I think for the most part, it's because we're lazy.
Maybe. And also, I think maybe, I don't know, I could be completely wrong.
Well, and also think of our IT departments. So many of them are so Windows-centric, it would mean, you know, cleaning out and starting over.
Well, and I think that was actually a source of some pain that they had in their migration here, was that the IT shop was so Windows-focused. But I also wonder if maybe, and I could be completely wrong, but I wonder if maybe some of the U.S. companies had a head start on deployments, right? Because Linux hasn't always been totally ready for this.
No, there was a time where it was needed a little more time in the oven. But I think we've certainly by now hit a point where it is more than ready. Yeah. People are doing it.
But if you weren't on board with that whole NetWare and then it kind of Windows NT came in, so then people switched to Windows on their corporate desktops. If you weren't involved in all of that, you're not sort of you're already kind of down a path. And that happened a lot here in the States. Maybe it didn't happen everywhere else in the world like that.
I think so. Also, a lot of places may have been adopting this technology later. I can't speak for France, obviously, but as far as like other countries and things of that sort, maybe they're kind of bringing in. Brazil's one of my poster child examples for that.
It's kind of like
they are Linux.
I look at like a lot of the developing nations that are skipping wired infrastructure and they're just going right to mobile because they're like, well, we're just going to leap right to the latest and greatest.
That's right.
And now, obviously, they've been doing this since 2004. It's kind of been a slow ramp up, but I actually think they did what you find is these ones where they take a real methodical approach. You swap out the user apps first, so you get the application layer, and why not? Make the application layer as comfortable as possible and familiar as possible, and then at some point when you swap out the back-end desktop, what you really lose there is what IT had set up. Oh, we have scripts, we have group policy, we have whatever it might be. The users don't really care about that.
Well, and that's always been my philosophy. Anytime your goal is to switch a person or an entity over to Linux, quit making it about the platform and make it about the solution. Show them the reason why they care. In this particular case, it's saving 40%. For the home user, it might be for something else.
I got to say, our topic today, when we get into the review segment, is going to make switching to Linux even more seamless because it is going to bring parity across operating systems, mobile and desktop. And it is, I mean, I think when we look at what WebRTC is going to bring to the desktop and how it'll once again even more enable the moving away from Windows because it's all going to be in the browser.
You'll never imagine a world where you go to ustream.com to do something with a camera and you're not having the little flash pop-up not work properly because you can't get it. You're trying to click on it, it's not working. That's gone. Things like that are gone.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
All right, so let's talk about the Steam announcement. Now, we've been watching the Steam stuff closely. We've covered a lot in Unplugged. We've covered it since the days it was just a rumor. Remember when it was just a rumor? Oh, my God.
Yeah, and everybody said, oh, you know what? Obviously, you guys are just full of beans. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and... Yeah, I feel like
we're past that now.
It's just gotten better and better as time has gone on. So now we've gotten prototype details for the Steambox.
Nice prototype stuff.
Yeah,
actually.
Valve's kind of like pulling a Nexus with this whole thing. They're like, well, here's our device. You want to build it? This is kind of what we're going to build. You can build something nicer. You can build something less nice, I guess. Yeah. If you want to. But here's what we're going to go for. And
I think they take the lead by doing that too, because then they're saying,
they set the bar.
We're going to be the flagship, just period. We are, and anyone who wants to follow suit is going to be under us.
Right. So the prototype machine. This is from Valve's post. The prototype machine is a high-end, high-performance box built with off-the-shelf PC parts. It's fully upgradable, allowing any user to swap out the GPU, hard drive, CPU, even the motherboard if you really want to. Apart from the custom enclosure, anyone can go and build exactly the same machine by shopping for the components and assembling it themselves.
That's pretty awesome.
It's extremely awesome
It's
because
very transparent.
It means
too.
my hacked together machine on the floor over there could probably also work as a
totally.
Steambox.
Unlike, say, I don't know, Xbox or PS3.
Right. So, and also, I think maybe we should just pause here for a second and say, this fundamentally alters the developer story.
Yeah.
Because when you want to develop for an Xbox or a PlayStation, there is a huge, or even an iDevice, or even an Android device. You got to buy some hardware. There's a barrier to entry, more so on the console side, but even on mobile. Whereas with the Steambox, it's like you got a PC with an x86 processor.
Exactly right.
You can develop for us.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
huge. That's huge. You want to
And
develop
the only
on Linux?
bar left is how much resources it takes to run said game.
So remember, Valve's going to send this out to 300 beta testers.
Lucky people.
I think there's tens and tens of thousands of people that have signed up, so it's going to be a tight race. Here are the official Valve specifications. The 300 prototype units will ship with the following components. The GPU will be some units with an NVIDIA Titan, some with a GTX 780, some with a GTX 760, and some with a GTX 660. So they're going to do a whole range of GPUs to see how they perform.
That's crazy.
Some boxes for the CPU will have an i7 4770, some will have an i5 4570, and some will even have an i3 processor in them.
Can you imagine being the guy that gets like the top of the line across the board?
I'd be bummed to be the guy that gets the i3 and the...
like, ooh, I got Steam, man.
So here we go for the storage. 1 terabyte drive with an 8 gigabyte hybrid SSD. Power supply is a 450 watt, 80 plus gold rated supply, and they got the dimensions in there. Now, what struck me about this is there is nothing on this list that has the AMD or ATI logo on it. Right? No AMD proc, no AMD GPU.
Partnership.
And then, of course, now that also influences the motherboard. Right?
It does. It
That
absolutely does.
influences the chipset on the motherboard.
Yep.
And I'm going to just say it. I think that's great. I think AMD has had their ass handed to them, not only in GPU department, but in the CPU department.
Yep.
And if I was going to build my own Steambox, I would not put an AMD chip in it. And I know, Matt, I say that, and then I know I'm going to get called, AMD is great,
AMD's garbage.
comparable
Okay, look,
performance
I was an
with less
AMD
price.
fanboy for good, God, I don't know, 10 plus years or whatever. And I finally got tired if it's like, runs hotter. Yeah, it's cheaper for a reason. I'm just going to put that out there.
I feel like it. I feel like when the Core 2 Duo series hit, Core 2 Duo, and the I series hit.
Yeah, it was a whole different ballpark at that point. I mean, there was a time to where you really could, your Athlon days and whatever, you could, as far as the CPU is concerned, you can kind of squeak by with it, and it was fine. But nowadays, it's just not happening. And then their graphics, forget it.
And the Linux user in me, I look at these components just from an abstract level, and I say, all this is going to work great with Linux.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to know about.
Okay.
What prevents, and I assume nothing, a user from taking a Steambox and formatting it and loading Windows 7 on there?
Nothing.
It bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want DRM. I don't want it to be locked down. But at the same time, it would be a travesty if people bought these Steamboxes and then just put like pirated copies of Windows 7 on there.
Yeah, you could, but it's a little bit like ebook piracy is a good example of that. Yes, the people that are going to are those types of people, but most people
majority won't.
Right, but the people that are actually not building their own Steam boxes and are buying them ready complete, they're doing it to run Steam.
Yeah, and
Quite
I suppose
frankly, honestly, I think they are.
I suppose as long as the majority doesn't do that, then Valve will always be tailoring it. I mean, they're always going to write that the underlying operating system will be running Linux, so it's eventually just everything's going to be better under Linux.
That's their goal, is just to make it so attractive that someone could go that route if they wanted to, but in the long game, it's not beneficial to them, and that's all they can do. Because DRM doesn't work.
So it's going to be a little while before we get any details. I think before any of us have a Steam controller in our hands. But I want to say to Valve, hey, Valve, if you guys just want to make an ISO available, I'll build my own Steambox. You don't have to send me the hardware. You can. You totally can. Okay. Trust me. You really, really can send me the hardware.
P.O. Box information appears from here.
We should just, we should just have a ticker at the bottom of the screen with our address.
Yes.
Send it here, send it here, send it here.
Send free stuff, too.
But I just want, and, there are repos out there now where you can get some of the packages and load your own Steam. It's just not ready yet.
No.
I want an ISO I can download.
That's been vetted, tested, happy, ready to go.
That would be so awesome. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. So, yeah. All right. So, a lot of people asked when the Steambox was announced, because it's based on Ubuntu, is it going to use Mir? And I think at this point,
boy.
it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, let me give you the short answer. Not if they want it to be something that they. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not yet. Eventually, it could be, but I don't think we're there.
So I got good news and I got bad news. Good news: if you want Matt to wear a monkey suit, I think it's coming. Bad news, Matt. I think you're wearing a monkey suit. So no mirror by default in Ubuntu 13.10. That's the one that comes out next week, right?
That's
the
right.
17th.
Yeah.
So this.
Yeah, the
so
mirror
remember what we were gonna have is we were gonna have mirror and then Xmirror running on top of that with all of the X11 Windows applications being delivered that way.
Which is
Unfortunately, due to some outstanding technical difficulties, this is on a mailing post on the Ubuntu developer mailing list. We are on track to successfully deliver Mirror for Ubuntu on smartphones. We are unfortunately not going to be able to deliver Mirror plus Xmirror plus Unity 7 as the default experience on the desktop.
I will give them props for not forcing it early. They get scored points for that with me because thank you for not making the experience craptastic. So that's awesome. I support that.
I think it's bold to make this move because there is a definite PR hit, and especially with Fedora 20, like about to ship with Wayland support out of the box.
I mean there is, but I really got to give them props for not putting out a crap product. So that's awesome. Thank you.
I mean they just full up said it's not up to our standards yet. Here's the part that from day one of this whole Mirror thing has bugged me, and it continues to bug me, and I think it represents a larger problem with Canonical. And I'll read this for you.
Okay.
He goes on to say, I know many of you have been curious about the progress of discussions with GPU manufacturers on Mirror support.
Kind of a big deal.
Exactly.
Huge.
And especially as, Steam is available for Ubuntu. And while those conversations are under NDA, I can assure you they are progressing forward.
Yes.
Now,
total PR devil speak. I'm sorry. Holy nothing, Batman.
Here's how I figure this plays out.
Yeah.
This has got to be either A, an NDA, not requested by the GPU manufacturers, but requested by Canonical.
Could be. Yeah.
Because here we have NVIDIA, ATI, and Intel all openly discussing in public their Wayland plans and interacting with the developers in public mailing lists. But yet when it comes to Canonical and Mirror, everything's behind a closed door and an NDA.
I think I think it sucks, but I think part of it is that it also saves them a PR hit later on. If it does blow up in their face, then it's not as much going back and forth. There's less to downplay, such as when they're delaying.
It smells like misdirection to me. It smells like
it is. It's calculated misdirection.
It sounds like a fancy way to just swipe under the rug that they don't have progress. And not only that, but aren't they already getting their ass kicked for doing all of this stuff behind closed doors, for not being transparent enough, for not trusting the community, for not involving them? And then when it comes to one of the critical key components of Mirror support, we can't tell you about that. It's a secret. It's a secret.
Yeah. Well, and see, my whole complaint of it is that I feel like that a long time ago they kind of lost direction on how they could monetize their stuff as far as the end user is concerned, not in the server space, not in the mobile space, but just on the desktop. And I think that reflects more and more and more with their actions and behaviors, that it is truly them scrambling to try and be cash positive. And they're making some decisions that I think are going to bite them in the butt in the long run. And this would be one of them.
Yeah.
The NDA thing, I'm not going to... I won't get too judgy with it, but I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I'm probably overjudging. I mean, so here's what the first comment on Linux Weekly said. He said, in response to that NDA text, he said, what a lot of text that says nothing. NDA is usually something one of the companies chooses for. I don't get why this is under NDA, especially NDA with all these companies. It seems more likely that Canonical wanted this NDA, in which case, don't use it as an excuse. Even if other companies all wanted the NDA, you can give us a little bit more information. Progressing forward is really meaningless because the intent, it is the thinnest hint that something might have improved. It could be anything. That could mean anything being just summarized as progressing forward.
Right.
It could be I sent an email to NVIDIA to say, hey, do you guys want to look at this?
And I agree with that. I think they should word that differently. Now, in their defense, they're trying to avoid what I call empty parking lot syndrome. They're basically to where you have a bookstore, and if the parking lot's empty, people probably aren't going to swing by. But if you got a couple cars in there, it's like, maybe I'll go check that out. I think they're trying to avoid that with their NDA.
You're talking about a whorehouse.
No, empty car. The less cars at a whorehouse, the better, because you're going to get more booty.
That's true. Things might be a little better condition too.
That's a whole other situation. But yeah. But and NDA's there. That's a whole other black book type deal. No, the whole thing with it is that they really need to decide, what they're going to do with it. And I think that, I get what they're trying to do, but I think where they really pissed off people is with that pushing forward thing. That's not really that's not a good terminology. I would have used something of that, you know, we'll keep you updated. We don't know yet. We're optimistic to the future. That's PR speaking.
How about telling
that's
me?
not douchey though.
How about telling me how great Mir is going to work with EGL and how there's this new EGL layer that both Wayland and Mir can use? And how about telling me how you guys are working towards making that a standardized? So that way I know that I'm not going to have Ubuntu drivers and then every other distro.
And it
drivers.
takes the focus off, or it takes the pressure focus off of their negotiations and puts it on features that they can talk about. That's cool. You know, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Matthew Garrett of Red Hat fame, so you know, prepare your salt a little bit here. He says he took the XMIR being delayed and he kind of ran with it. I think, you know, he outlines why really it was a very good decision for Canonical to delay it. It's still broken on some single monitor systems, although not as bad. The input driver bug isn't really fixed. There's an issue with the input driver.
Okay.
It's still missing some essential features. He goes on to put out that X-render properties aren't exposed, so there's no way to control TV output, encoding or overscan, which would be a problem for me because I'm outputting to an HDMI capture. So, for example, XMIR probably wouldn't work for doing this show.
Oh, that'd be a problem.
And he goes on to kind of expose a lot of the problems here. Multiple monitor support might be the single most obvious feature where XMIR is lacking, he points out, but that's only one of them. Technically and politically, its code is long way from being ready for prime time. Without significant community contribution, Canonical needs to focus on prioritizing it appropriately rather than expecting a tiny number of developers to perform miracles. Yeah. And I don't know how accurate he is. And this is...
okay. Which aspect are you concerned about?
Well, this is something that's been lobbied at Canonical for a long time, but... so the Wayland camp says, yeah, Mir, that's adorable. We have a whole team of experts working on Wayland. You guys really have one or two people who really know what they're doing, and then a whole bunch of people who are not really familiar with this type of project. And he says that this is the result of Canonical overpromising, over-delivering, and what he says was they never planned for running into snags. Like their plan was a best-case moonshot scenario, and it just didn't happen. And like they didn't have any room. Now the problem is, and then we'll move on from this topic. But the problem is why they were being aggressive about putting Mir and XMIR in 1310 is because 1404 or 14. Yeah, I think it's 14. Anyways, they're coming up on an LTS release soon.
Oh, so they kind of have to.
You got to bang on it so that way it's ready for the LTS.
Because if it doesn't make it to the LTS release this particular time, if I'm them, I'm going to say, look, the Mir thing's great. Well, here's a
time for Wayland.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I don't understand why they can't just mirror. You know, and I know it's more quote unquote more work, which I actually deny. I think that's wrong. I think it'd be smarter just to do the Mir on the mobile and then just go Wayland on the desktop. And as far as it being more work, you know, honestly, I don't really see that because then your desktop releases are still happening. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh.
It's already being done for you. Leverage, people. Leverage.
So I don't think, you know, at the end of the day, I think this is perfectly reasonable on Canonical's part. I think it's a little disappointing, and I think it also perhaps shows that maybe they're a little bit in over their head, but at least they're willing to admit it when they are and sort of step back from
They are.
From the
I'm good with that. Their choice of words needs work. Honestly, that's my big gripe. Is your choice of words need, you know, pushing forward? No, just say we're cautiously optimistic, or we're hopeful, or hey, things are moving along. Here's some great features, by the way. Let's throw these at you. I mean, come on, this is PR 101, people. I don't know who's doing your PR, but you need to have a conversation there.
So our next story isn't directly related to Linux, but you'll actually see how it all ties together. Pretty crazy week for the Tor network. Silk Road was shut down. And Silk Road was a marketplace that was hidden on the Tor network.
That's right.
And a lot of people have wondered, is the Tor network vulnerable? Is there something wrong with Tor? It actually, to me, when I look through all of the documents, I've read all of the recent articles published by The Guardian, by Bruce Schneier, and now also by Ars Technica. Sure. It comes down to, don't use Tor if you're using Windows. Really. If you want to be safe online, and if for some reason, if you're doing anything that you think might flag you for monitoring from a government institution.
That's true. You're using an operating system with like backdoors out the back door, and you're going to run Tor.
So check this out, Matt. Yeah, exactly. So check this out. So classified memos and training manuals, which were leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden and then reported on by The Guardian, show that the NSA and the UK-based government communications headquarters at GCHQ are able to bypass Tor protections, but only against select targets and often with considerable effort. They said one presentation slide grudgingly hailed Tor as the king of high secure, low latency internet anonymity. Another slide was titled Tor stinks and lamented that we'll never be able to de-anonymize all Tor users all the time. However, one prominent technique for monitoring terrorists and other people using Tor was dubbed egotistical giraffe. It involves exploiting vulnerabilities contained in the software bundle that Tor makes available to users. One attack targeted serious bug in Firefox. Now, I've been reading up on this. They have a series of the NSA and the GCHQ have a series of Windows 2003 servers tied in directly to the backbone of the internet service providers. And this system is called Fox Acid. Fox Acid, Firefox Acid, Fox Acid. NSA defines it as an exploit orchestrator. And what they do is they determine the vulnerabilities on a person's PC. And then when you go to a website, either a Tor site or a real site, they catch your traffic first before it's called a race condition, and they catch it before the actual website does, because if you have Comcast as your ISP, they have a server in Comcast's closet, so that responds a lot faster than the server in California does. Then they intercept your traffic, they analyze it for the exploits possible, and then they apply an exploit based on a whole library of Perl scripts to your machine. And what I read through a lot of this is they are fundamentally taking advantage of vulnerabilities in, when available, Firefox, but more often in Windows itself. They are using vulnerabilities in Windows to identify you, and then not just identify you, but they actually have the ability to watch. They have the ability to tag your PC, and then they watch everywhere you go on the internet. They just tag Matt, and then they just have a log of everything you do.
And I think that's where the biggest scare is it's not the, are they identifying me as a terrorist? It's how they're identifying you as potentially being a terrorist, in that something totally innocent gets labeled as weird. Okay, we're going to watch him now. And then through connection of dots, it's like, oh, these things together, by themselves, they're perfectly normal, but together they start looking a little suspicious. That makes me a little nervous. That's kind of, I'm not really comfortable with that.
Schneier writes, NSA nodes dubbed as Quantum were able to respond to requests faster than the server end user could visit. Schneier called this, and he shows a top-secret diagram, which I'm not sure if it's been pulled.
Probably.
Here they are. So here is an NSA diagram of how they do a man-in-the-middle attack against Google. So you see the request from Google comes in. They have a man-in-the-middle server that's running Windows Server 2003 that is their exploit orchestrator. They catch your traffic, and here they can choose to tag you, they can choose to apply an exploit against you, or they can just pass your traffic along and monitor it. And their options dramatically go up if you have JavaScript enabled in your Tor bundle and if you're using Windows. And if you're using Linux and you have an up-to-date Tor bundle, there's practically nothing they can do at this point to track
At this point. And so I think that's the big piece of it. It reminds us of two very important things. They want in badly enough, eventually, maybe 10 years down the road, 5 years down, I don't know, they'll eventually get it. Secondly, what the hell? This whole thing just sucks.
Thrifty Spend is pointing out in our live chat, I mean, you can't, if you think they don't have exploits for Mac and Ubuntu or Linux, whatever, you're insane. That's true. However, reading these documents
makes it more difficult, but
Well, and reading these documents, the people they have caught are based on Tor bundle exploits, or more specifically Firefox exploits.
That's true, and low-hanging fruit is generally easier to go after. It keeps the guy that's doing the exploits employed, and makes him look good. So yeah, he's going to go for the low-hanging fruit.
Well, what this exploit orchestrator actually does is, so the easiest way for them to track you on Tor, because Tor is very good, is to have the #1 tool in the NSA's chest, or the GCHQ, or really probably even bad guy hackers, is local exploits. Because if you locally exploit the machine, doesn't matter if you're using Tor, doesn't matter if you're using a VPN, doesn't matter if you're using SSH, if you can locally exploit that rig, you got it.
All your efforts are for naught because they're over here, and it's localized.
They literally, the NSA literally has a department of hundreds and hundreds of people that are staffed at going through Windows vulnerabilities, finding the ones they can add to the library. And according to Schneier, if they determine you're a more savvy user, get this. If they determine you're a more savvy user and might detect their trick, their bag of tricks, they don't step it up. They actually use like a lower rated vulnerability because they figure, well, if they find us, we don't want them to know our sophistication level. So they'll actually use like a weaker exploit if they think you're going to find them.
Although, and as a benefit, that is the lower hanging fruit thing. They're going to take take that angle going back. But the whole thing just sucks. I mean,
the other thing they've been doing is they've been buying ads on Google ad networks that put cookies on your machine, and then they track you based on every time you hit a site with that cookie. So it's
okay. So AdBlock Plus and DuckDuckGo.
This is just the reason why I bring this up. The reason why I bring this up is because this is the dawn of the new opportunity for Linux. The new problem now. Linux is not invulnerable. It is not perfect, but it is, like Matt says, it is not the low-hanging fruit.
It's not. And boy, you talk about making a really good, in a world type of infomercial for Linux. Here it is. In a world where your computer can be exploited by three-letter agencies.
If you've got friends, family, or clients, or yourself who are concerned about financial transactions online, or you want a certain sense of security, probably time to start recommending Linux to those people.
Yeah, because you look at these exploits, it's like, oh, got malware. Oh, that's okay. That's that NSA one. That's fine. It's still malware. The Ars Technica article that we have linked in the show notes links to a Bruce Schneier write-up, and he talks about how they specifically have malware that bypasses all commercial antiviruses. So they specifically have tailored it so that way if you're running antivirus or anti-malware on a Windows box, it is not a barrier to them at all. And to all the people who in years past said I was an idiot for saying that the whole entire security industry was complete crap, there you go. There's your sign. I've been saying it for years.
Right. Yeah.
They're for sale.
We've covered there is a huge black market or gray market. It's actually illegal, where people just sell exploits.
Yeah.
And governments just buy them up. We've talked about this a lot on TechSnap, and it's unfortunate to see like so many of them just completely run over antivirus software.
Yeah. Again, I've seen it. It's not shocking. I know for a fact. I've actually dealt with a company that was falsely flagged at times. I've seen this happen. Money changes hands.
Schneier says, and I don't know about ClamAV, but Schneier says all commercial antivirus solutions are affected. All of them. He says there's not a single one that is not affected. So I don't know about ClamAV.
And I think ClamAV is not counted as commercial because there's no commercial vested interest there. So they may be safe, but even still, are they up to date enough to catch some of this stuff? I don't know.
So, Matt, I just wanted to put that out there. We're kind of following that. It gets more. We cover that more in Tor, more of the Tor and security stuff in TechSnap and Unfiltered, but it is becoming a Linux issue because Linux users are savvy enough to run Tor nodes to help the Tor network out. They are savvy enough to protect themselves, and now this is one more thing that we kind of just have to maybe look out for folks that
don't rely
Linux.
on apps to protect you. That's the best advice I have. Just use common sense. That's really all I got.
All right, so now let's bring it up. Let's have some fun before we get out of the news.
Okay.
So Mozilla has quietly rolled out, I believe it's like a kind of a project between two gentlemen at the Mozilla organization. This isn't even officially launched yet, but it hit the top of Hacker News. So it looks so cool, I want to talk about it. It's called the Mozilla App Maker.
Oh.
And I think this is going to have huge ramifications for Firefox OS. So I think one of the things that this new wave of mobile operating systems needs to accomplish to get adoption is make application development crazy great. Make it easy, make it accessible, make publishing easy, make it easy for enterprises to deploy applications for their business, all that kind of stuff. Welcome to App Maker. App Maker, it's totally in pre-alpha. Its goal is to empower everyone to make mobile apps. Now,
I like the sound of it. I like the sound of it so far.
It's all web-based. You go to appmaker.mozillalabs.com. Now, there's my Firefox OS phone right there, right? Now, check this out. Let's say I wanted to have, I don't know, a Flickr image in there. I can drag that in there.
Oh, dude. So not only, instead of connecting the dots, it's actually giving you a visual representation of what you just did.
There's my menu right there.
Seriously?
Maybe I want to have a chat window in there. And you just drag all these things in there, and then you add the functionality to them. There's a great demo of it online.
Holy crap.
Yeah, you go in here and so if you did something on screen, like say I had to rotate through a bunch of pictures, I could add a counter right here, and it will count every time a picture changes. It automatically, there's little bars here, so I can say count up, and I can say make it purple because purple's pretty.
Yeah, right.
I can set keywords right here, so I can say go look at cats on Flickr, and it is click done. It is so crazy easy. Here's my chat room. I can set the nickname to be Chris Lass, and I'm going to make my nickname purple.
Really solves the app challenge for them.
Now you hit publish. It makes a URL available to you.
Oh, no kidding.
So you go to this URL that it has generated here. And if I was on Firefox OS, so here's my app. I literally just made this app, pulling a cat image from Flickr.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And here's a little menu. Here's items that I've added. If I wanted this app on my Firefox OS device, I don't have to go to an app store. They just have a big install app button right here at the top. It then installs it to my Firefox OS home
simply
screen
by browsing to the page
as an app.
Well,
as
bam,
an
bam, thank you,
app.
ma'am.
It is. So in the time we were just talking about that, I just made a Flickr slideshow app that counts up every time the image changes with an embedded chat room which I could go into.
So you can discuss cats. I mean, that's
Exactly.
but if for other topics as well.
Well, no, just discuss cats.
Discuss cats.
If you don't
Only
discuss-
cats.
If you talk about anything else than cats, you get kicked out.
And dogs, you're banned for life.
And it's one button install. One button install.
I like that.
This is, this is the kind of thing that could really kind of give Firefox OS a huge boost.
I'd say so.
So David Asher is one of the guys working on this, and he's made a video.
A project we've been working on for the last couple
I'll play
of
a little
months.
bit of it.
All right.
AppMaker has a big mission, which is to let everyone, not just developers, create custom apps for their phones, whether it's because they want something useful, or because they want to learn how apps work, or just to have fun.
There you go. So it's Mozilla AppMaker, and it is available on the web. You can do it in Chrome. You can do it in Firefox. Then you hit Publish. You go to it with a Firefox OS device, and then you can install it.
Well, and I like the fact you can get familiar with the app before you ever ended up with Firefox OS in the first place. So if you
True.
don't have a phone that's compatible with that yet, you can still make apps and get familiar with it.
Now, it's got really basic functionality,
Sure.
and it's not capable of doing everything that a Firefox OS app can. But you think about like the application for this in schools. Mm-hmm. Here are children. Here's a very... I think sometimes if you demonstrate what you can accomplish, it motivates you to invest in building something. So here he's just built a fireworks application.
That's cool.
Now he's going to so he can click this button and it generates fireworks on his Firefox OS phone. Now that's neat. But because this thing is so smart, he can just add a counter, and the counter knows, oh, you've done an action, and I will just count every time a firework fires off. So here, I'll jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So there, he just added the counter right there. So now he says add a count up like I was doing earlier for the cat pictures.
Sure.
And now every time he fires off a firework, the counter goes up.
Oh, that's cool. So you can So and the fact you don't have to tell it that, I think is really compelling.
Yeah, very, very easy, right? I mean, that's easy enough for me to learn how to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Same here. It's like, holy crap, I could do this.
Yeah. So
It's cool.
you're not going to build the world's greatest app probably with something like this.
But I think for learning, for students and for kids and things of that sort, I think it'd be very cool.
Yeah, it's also
Great way to get people to think critically.
I think it's also just a great demonstration of what can be accomplished in a web app itself. I mean, this is an incredible web app just in its own.
All drag and drop.
Drag and drop, man. And you got just a lot of interesting concepts. So you have different cards here, so I can have a multi-level app and
no plugins. It's just
it's just HTML.
HTML5. Gotta love that.
You do. So that is Mozilla AppMaker. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. appmaker.mozilalabs.com.
Nice.
Go play with it. I mean, you could, even if you don't have a Firefox OS, you can get the Firefox OS simulator. It's just an add-on to the Firefox browser.
Yeah, people
go
with
build
web
your app and
presence,
try it.
right? Yeah. Get a web presence on there and have some fun.
See what happens. All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. It's time to talk about a new technology that's going to not only change the playing field on the web, but make Linux a first-class web app citizen. Right. But before we do that, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System76. Woo! Creators of machines designed, born to run Linux. Now, they have a lot of awesome machines, but I've been getting a lot of requests recently. Hey, Chris, what's sort of like the sweet spot Ubuntu System 76 desktop you recommend? My friends, I've got a desktop killer I'll tell you about here in a second, but I want to mention, I think the Ratel performance is probably right now a really, really, really good comparable. You look at the features, price, and performance of the Ratel, and I think this one's in that sweet spot. So first of all, I love the size of this thing. It's got. If you look at next to this monitor, you can see it is not very big, but it's big enough that you can still work in it if you need to open it. It runs quiet, has fantastic performance, and it runs Linux like a champ. Now, this has the Haswell processor in it, so you're going to get a great modern CPU in there. You can change it out. You can have an Intel video card if you want, or you can go up to NVIDIA graphics. And, of course, then you've got the Bonobo. So maybe, my friend, you don't need a desktop as much as you think you do. If you need like a desktop 10% of the time, or I'm sorry, if you need like a laptop 10% of the time, or more, actually. I mean, the Bonobo, it's
a seamless transition because you can go either way with it.
It's big, but exactly. I can use it as a desktop. It's got a Hurricane GPU in it. It's got a Hurricane CPU in it. Yeah.
And
I can also use it as a laptop.
It's got a subwoofer. I mean, this thing's a serious, serious tool.
But like those nights when I want to go sit in the chair and watch a movie while I work on Linux, it's great for that. I've used it at my clients for a long time. I love the Bonobo. It's got a backlit keyboard, which is great for working in the dark.
Right.
It's got dual hard drives. It's got a fantastic GPU. HDMI out, DisplayPort out, multiple sound options, SD card reader, all of that built in. Great cooling system too, by the way.
That's right.
Never gets too loud, even under the most demanding gaming. 1080p screen, fantastic picture quality. I love my Bonobo Extreme, but there's lots of great systems over at system76.com. And if you live in their area, they are hiring.
Yeah, they are, actually. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like, hey, it's kind of a neat opportunity.
We often recommend you go check out the System76G Plus page.
Yes.
They've got a lot of stuff over there, including the fact that they're hiring. They also give out some free Ubuntu stickers. So go over to G Plus, search for System76, and follow them over there, and then you can find out about a lot of the great stuff they're up to, like hiring people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A video of that beautiful Leopard Extreme.
Oh, I know, right? It's
Hello,
like,
baby. I want you in my hands, Leopard Extreme.
There was talk of us reviewing it. Hopefully that has still on.
I hope that talk stays. So go over to System76, get yourself something nice, and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. Thanks to System76 for sponsoring this segment. I want to talk about WebRTC, Matt.
Okay.
Now, I know that sounds like a snoozer at first. So WebRTC, what you probably think of it is you probably think of the video capabilities. And turns out that's just one component of what WebRTC can do.
Huh?
It's a big part of it. It's it is probably the first use case of it. And WebRTC's video support it's really great. So here we have a live video of me on my Bonobo's webcam, and I'm on a website called webcamtoy.com. You can go there right now.
Cool.
It uses WebRTC. We're not using anything fancier than there's no flash.
That's a big thing right there. Yes.
And one of the things that I don't know if people realize about WebRTC is there's an API layer to it where you can actually like pull in the video and bring it through a canvas and things like that. So check this out, Matt. If I click this normal button right here, it'll load up a whole series of like photo booth cheese effects.
I like the one on the lower right there.
The kaleidoscope.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So you can, you can see is you can actually pipe pipe WebRTC's video through. Look at this one. Wah, wah, wah.
Oh my goodness.
Wah, wah. I'm like it's like South Park.
You're like you're like one of the South Park Canadians. Right?
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to show this to you is because there's no practical use for this one. Oh, this is
they're Extreme Chris.
Humans, let me tell you about WebRTC. I am here to tell you about Wait, let me find the sweet spot. WebRTC. That is awesome.
That's gonna be a meme.
Can we do the whole show like this? Linux, everybody. Now the audio listeners are missing out, but
they're all like, "What the hell?"
I'm in a god tunnel, audio listeners. So there is a lot of fun to be had with some of the video effects, but let's talk about some of the practical things. Yes. So while we're on the topic of video, I think this is a good one. Let's talk about multi-party chat rooms. So I've made a chat room. It's called Last Town, and this is an this is a website called opentalkrtc.com, and I just put the link in the chat room.
Yep.
And it's a multi-party chat program where you can have we have one person who's joined us, but pretty soon it's sort of like Hangouts. You can have a whole bunch of people join you, right?
That's awesome, and they just pop right in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we've hit a limit yet. Now, a couple of things is Chrome and Firefox will both ask you for permission to use your camera before you do. Oh, and we got bumped.
Okay, so maybe we hit a limit?
Well, I think it's just a little, I'll go back and what was it called? Last Town? See if I can just re-enter.
LAS Town.
I can re-enter. That's
cool.
Wow,
that's kind of neat. Okay, so it's still there.
And I also have, they've also had some fun. Like I can do some effects here. Like I've made myself sepia. I can make myself blurry.
Cool.
See, so now I'm blurry. I can
Censored Chris.
Yeah,
right?
I can invert the colors so that way I'm X-ray Chris. And we're getting a big stack here.
That's awesome. I'm just looking to join.
Yeah, isn't this neat? So
that's cool.
Oh yeah, here's what's really kind of cool about the way this is working is all of that is going through a peer-to-peer connection.
Oh,
we're not all streaming through a server.
So you're not pounding on a server.
This uses a technology called RTC peer connection. It handles the signal processing, the codec handling, the peer-to-peer communication, the security encryption, and the bandwidth management. So it'll automatically scale. Now, you saw me. I just clicked the join party.
Yeah.
Yeah, RTC peer connection handles all of that stuff in the background, completely transparent to the user. Ooh. So you don't even have to worry about how it's working or what's happening there. And so there's a lot of features that are going to be rolling out. It uses VP8 on the back end for the video codec.
You know, I just had a thought. You know how in Chrome you can actually basically turn any web page into a quote-unquote a web app, essentially?
Yeah.
Why not create a room?
Yeah.
Bam, boom, damn, you're done.
You know, but maybe you don't want video. Well, the Mozilla project is full in on WebRTC as well. In fact, the industry is in on WebRTC. The telco industry is in on WebRTC. There has been WebRTC conferences. Well, this is a project called WeConspire.com from the Mozilla. I think it's from the Mozilla folks. At least it now supports Firefox. This is for like gaming. You give a link out to your friends you're playing with, and then it is It's like a really watered down version of TeamSpeak or Mumble.
Oh, okay.
So it's not using the video capabilities of WebRTC.
Sure.
It's using just the audio capabilities of WebRTC.
But when you're gaming, that's really all you're wanting is the audio. You just
Right.
want to have a headset on and be like, okay, we're taking the tower, whatnot.
So I'll put this link in the chat room. So if I toss that in the chat room, so you can start to see people join. So there's one of my allies.
Oh, and you can mute or adjust the volume of
Yep.
individual people.
Yep. So you can have individual control there.
Oh,
And you can hear us playing back through his mic right now. Yeah.
that's cool.
So this is also really good just for voice chats. With WebRTC, you're not stuck to video chat. You're like, okay, Chris, okay. That's kind of neat. Oh, here's another person just joining. So each person, and this is the HTML5 audio control.
And so
Again,
the audio's all together. It's like in one big bucket.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But I can turn down individual folks.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So there's another person that's just joined.
neat.
Somebody say hi in here. Anybody in here listening? Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Hi. So, okay. So look at how many people were. How cool is this, right?
Gosh, that's awesome.
And now let's drop all of them. So there's specific video and audio components. That's Conspire.
Okay.
Here's a really good, like more of a visual. Here, so okay,
wow.
if you look, I'll maximize so you can see it. It's asking along the top here, do you want to allow access? So I say
Sure.
yes, allow. And then there is a real-time waveform analyzer of the audio that my microphone is
awesome.
picking up. I could
Okay.
record it and I could download it to my machine.
I like that. I think that's neat. Oh, yeah.
See that?
So it's
Yep.
picking it up.
Yeah, so that's gives you a little example, and they're doing this through an HTML5 canvas. So again, no
Very
flash,
cool.
very nice. But I would consider that to be interesting. But that,
I think the webcam one was more than interesting. I think that's waiting to be really harnessed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
If done right and properly implemented and a few other things, eventually it could be definitely a Skype killer.
I want to turn it up a notch, though.
Okay.
That's not enough.
That's not enough for you.
Not enough.
Not
for me.
enough. Okay.
I feel like if that was all this was, that would be an interesting new technology, but it wasn't going to change the world. Now we're going to get into the part that changes the world.
Okay.
Let's
World-changing
start
stuff.
with screen sharing. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal.
Oh, it is.
But
It
here
to
is,
me.
on another computer in the studio, my Bonobo's screen, and I just put that link in the chat room. I've already tested this. You can have dozens of people watching my screen in real time. I want to back up.
Whoa,
WebRTC is using Chrome to do a real-time live video stream, not using any flash, not using any particular service.
And you're able to take, just by having the browser open into that URL, you can take other non-browser applications, drop it in front of that, and it's being screencast. Oh, my God. That's
It's a little
awesome.
choppy over here. Sometimes
but
it can be a little
that's
choppy,
okay.
but
That's okay.
you can see it over there.
It's still quite reasonable for a screencast, actually.
Yeah, so here it is on another machine in the studio. That one's a little
God,
choppy.
For live demos and such? Oh, that's awesome.
Well, and here's what's great. So
No
there's a new
plugins?
service coming out that there's going to be a lot of sites that can be built around this kind of technology, and this one is called Same.io. They're new. They're in super limited testing. I got permission to talk about this on the show because it's still very much in beta. But you go to snap. See, it's beta. It is beta.
Yep.
But so you go to Same.io. All you have to do is have a modern version of Chrome or Firefox. You click Share My Screen after you create an account.
Sure.
And it generates a URL that you can share out with anyone. And there's a little button at any time I can stop sharing my screen if things get a little weird, so it's not like I'm locked into it.
I love the lack of plugins feature.
Right. No plugins.
I love
right?
that. I love that.
And I want to back up here a second. This would also work on Chrome if I don't know if it's Chrome Beta on Android, but there is a version of Chrome on Android. You can use all of these WebRTC features.
Oh, dude, that's
your camera,
awesome.
the screen sharing, everything from the tablet.
Finally, you don't have to root your phone to screencast from your Android. Oh, God, that'd be nice.
So we're starting to see what is an interesting component of WebRTC called RTC Data Channel.
That's cool.
And RTC Data Channel allows for the peer-to-peer exchange of arbitrary data. Peer-to-peer exchange of arbitrary data. So take a game. You got a space game called Jank Wars here, and you need to tell when Matt and I are playing Jank Wars. Matt's at home, and I'm here at my house. He needs to know where my spaceships are, and I need to know where his spaceships are. So you could use this data channel to transmit something like that. Or
wow. Oh, I get what you're saying now. That's crazy.
Check out this service called ShareFest. ShareFest is a peer-to-peer file exchange service built into the web application.
Can't stop the signal.
You can't stop the signal, Matt. So
oh my God.
let's add a file here. And so now the trick is, if you share something with ShareFest, you got to leave your browser tab open because
Sure.
it's a peer-to-peer exchange.
And that's reasonable.
Right. But I want to take, let's go find that clip I played from Bruce Schneier earlier during the pick segment.
Okay.
And it's a 131 megabyte file. And I'm going to just drag it into here. It prepares the file. It goes through a process of analyzing it.
Pretty quickly, I might add.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. And then it's going to generate me a URL. I hand out this URL to the chat room right here.
And it's already providing you with share options right out of the box,
Yeah,
too. That's cool.
so here you go, chat room. Download this file. That will pull the file
So
directly from, hopefully it doesn't kill our live stream.
Yeah.
That will pull the file directly from my browser to them. But here's the brilliant part. Because it's peer-to-peer, once a few of them get the file, so there you can see I have one peer, I'm connecting at 700 megabits, or kilobits. Once they have the file, they become a seeder. So it's got some elements of BitTorrent in it as well.
That's cool.
And you could really think about ways people will be able to distribute media files in the future directly to each other, right?
Again, that's why I become less and less scared about the whole podcasting patent thing, because these technologies are evolving.
And here we are,
it's like, hey,
4 peers. I'm now almost sending 2 megabytes a
That's
second. Hopefully we're not killing the stream.
Yeah.
And now I got, so 1.6 megabytes a second, 4 peers. We're not going through any server. We're not relaying through any server. We're just
awesome.
directly, and it has all happened. We're all just using our web browser.
That is so, so no plugin, nothing new is installed. You're literally going to a web address.
Yeah. So this WebRTC data channel, this RTC data channel, and this RTC peer-to-peer connection
so cool.
is a huge aspect to WebRTC.
I'm going to give you the game changer on that one. Yeah,
Right?
that's a big, big deal.
Here it
Big
is.
deal.
Here it is actually applied to something that could devastate an industry potentially.
Oh, well,
Or at least take a chunk out.
it would backhand it. That's for sure. Yeah.
Peer CDN. It is a peer-to-peer content distribution network powered by WebRTC. So everyone who's browsing the site also becomes a distributor of the site. Again, a la torrents. This could become
that's crazy.
Discount budget.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it won't be as supercharged as Akamai or Scale Engine
But
or
it
something
becomes
like
very
that.
practical. It becomes essentially what Linux was in a Windows world.
You can flip it on if they support it. They become part of the CDN. It uses that WebRTC data channel.
And even for businesses, I mean, honestly, it makes sense financially.
I mean, why not if you could just turn it on?
Right. I mean, why would you pay for this?
Peer CDN utilizes WebRTC data channel to establish a peer-to-peer connection between the site's visitors. Chrome and Firefox already support WebRTC, which together account for about 58% of global browser usage. However, if a visitor running IE or Safari lands on the page, then they have the ability to gracefully fall back for unsupported browsers. You can also integrate to traditional CDNs for those browsers if you want, or just have them.
There's your sign right there. That's what you would do if you're a business, right there.
Yeah. So let's see how our we now have 5 peers. Nobody's completed it yet, so I'm curious to see what happens when somebody completes it. So you guys stick with
whether
it.
it drops off or if you continue to share, maybe.
Yeah,
how that works.
I'm really interested to see how that works. And you see, also they've built in G+. And Facebook and Twitter.
Yep.
So I could just hit that and share that URL on G+, and everybody who has a modern browser could just start downloading that file.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
There is a lot, I think, that could happen here. But now, here's your caveat. You ready for this one, Matt?
I'm ready for the whole.
I've used the word peer-to-peer about 100 times.
Yep.
However, unfortunately,
there's a cloud.
You do need a server. You need a server with WebRTC for the signaling aspect of WebRTC.
Sure.
So the way it works is you got your both ends, and you have different conditions. You have people behind NATs, you have people on public addresses, you have people with crazy firewall rules. You need something that sort of brings everything together.
Right.
So Google has Google's really been the champion of this.
Oh, I can imagine. So I can see them using the hell out of it.
Yeah. So what the server does is the server helps negotiate what codecs are going to be used between both ends. It helps negotiate what security keys should be used.
Okay.
The network route to take, e.g., are you behind NAT, are you direct?
Sure.
The protocols that you can use with the server are very flexible. It could be JSON, SIP, XMPP, so you're not like locked in anything specifically. And it also supports setting up web. You can use WebSockets or Google Cloud Messaging to do the initial notification, or XHR.
Seems pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Now, all this does is this just establishes the session.
Okay.
It never relays the data packets.
So it's just establishing the session only,
Right.
nothing else. Okay.
So then you have 2 components to this. You have stun and turn. Stun is WebRTC uses stun for clients to just say, hey, what's my public IP?
Right.
I need to know what my public IP is. Can you tell me?
Get you through the whole NAT thing.
The WebRTC client goes out, touches the stun server, and then gives you that. Then you have the turn server. The turn server is used by WebRTC to provide a cloud failback if peer-to-peer fails.
Right, which matters. You kind of want that.
Yeah,
sure.
so you can, but now it means you're using the server to relay for the bandwidth,
Right.
but it also makes it work in almost every environment.
It's a double-edged sword, but I think it's a necessary one. So.
Now, WebRTC will always prefer the peer-to-peer method than the cloud fallback, always. It looks for both at the same time. It uses something called ICE, where it goes out and figures out, should I use the cloud relay or should I use peer-to-pear? And it tries to figure that out both at the same time. And if it comes back that peer-to-peer works, it'll always go with that.
Like that.
Google has propped up a test server. I have that in the show notes, where you can just bang on it using Google's test server if you want. However, because I know you guys are a do-it-yourself kind of crowd,
Yep.
you can also just roll your own WebRTC server.
There you go. Problem
So
solved.
like Jupiter Broadcasting, if we wanted to roll out like that multi-video window for calls, or
which would be awesome. I mean,
you can also, because WebRTC supports standards, you can actually integrate it with things like SIP. So I've been experimenting with a call button. You add a call button to your website. It uses WebRTC to handle the voice and the connection for the user.
Sure.
Connects to SIP on the back end, which then your SIP service could go out to a POTS line.
Absolutely.
You could you can actually make a one-button phone call. You push that button on your site. It'll actually dial a phone number in the background and connect.
awesome.
So like for customer service,
Right.
it could be huge.
for websites and whatnot, that'd be a big deal.
Right, but maybe you don't want to use Google servers to do that, so you run your own stun and turn server. And the good news is it's available right now. It's got a catchy name. The server is called RFC 5766-turn-server.
Yeah.
But there are packages available in the Arch repo, the Fedora repos, the OpenSUSE repos, the Debian repos, Ubuntu repos. It's the server you need to do this is already in the distro repos. So it's totally doable. So if you were going to host something like this anyways, you could just throw this up and you could make this available to folks.
That's so awesome.
All right, so man, we still don't have anybody that's completed a download yet.
Really?
Well, it was, I guess, it was 125 megabytes.
It was.
But I was curious.
And keeping in mind, we got a lot going on here as well. So.
Who, us?
Who us?
Who, us?
No, not at all.
Now, there's a lot to take in with WebRTC, but I want to just kind of end on this note that we all think of WebRTC as a way for Google to improve Google Hangouts. That's
kind of
that was my pre-assumption that I had made. But in reality, WebRTC is it's really about enabling real-time communications (RTC) between web applications.
True.
And anything that needs real-time communications is going to benefit from WebRTC. It's not just about video. It's about file transfer. It's about information distribution. It's about enabling my browser to talk to your browser directly, which
on your terms
fundamentally enables a whole new class of applications. And because all you need is a modern browser, Linux is there.
Well, and I'm sitting there thinking about like the whole the chat interview scene and things of that sort. I think that's so awesome because it's no longer, okay, do you have Skype installed? Well, you got to make sure that's set up. Well, no, just go to this URL, man. Plug your camera in. You're done.
I mean, you saw it. I just handed out the URL in the chat room. Pop, pop,
Crazy.
pop, pop,
Oh,
pop.
and by the way, the show notes we're using, just go to that URL. Well, you just download it, right?
Yeah.
And in the chat room, you just go to that URL. 3 tabs and you're good to go.
It is really cool. And it is you can embed the video. So like you could take the chat sessions, you can embed it in your site as an HTML5 video element, and people could just watch the stream in there. It's going to enable a new type of distributed downloads.
Love it.
It's going to completely redefine at least the lower end CDN market, which I think is ripe for the picking.
Oh, absolutely.
And the file transfer aspects of it could be huge for like it gives you the advanced features of BitTorrent without the complications of BitTorrent.
Or the stigma.
Maybe
that too as well. So I mean, the CDN side of itself, just on its own, if you have that fallback of traditional CDN as well as this for people that have enabled browsers, that's pretty awesome because that's a cost savings. I think it shakes up the market.
Now, all of these are in early days right now.
Oh yeah, we're very alpha.
Yeah. Yes. However, this is going to be huge in 2014. This is one of these last episodes where we cover something like Docker or something like that, and you're like, oh, that's interesting technology. And then 6-7 months later, you start to see it rolled out in everyday applications. I mean, think about when you have tablets and cell phones where every single device has a microphone and a camera. The hardest thing now about doing a conference, which is crazy easy, is picking the right app, setting up your contacts. And and when we do interviews, we run into this all the time. Did you send us your contact info? What's your nick on
it's
site?
like Skype's not showing up or Google Hangouts. That's even better. That's even more of a headache. Oh, forget it. And what I love about the screencasting option that you were showing off earlier is that, at least from my experience and my understanding, in order to do that now, you actually have to root your phone. I don't want to root my phone.
I haven't tried it from the device. I wonder if I can only grab the Chrome screen or if it could grab everything.
Because if it could grab everything, man,
yeah, that'd be really cool.
Oh,
but it's nice just from like you can start it up and you walk away, and then when you connect to it, you can connect to it at any point. Then it starts the encoding process. So it's not slamming your CPU just to run the application.
Right. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's a feature in itself right there.
It's very impressive. So I think WebRTC will enable. You know, we talk about on Coda Radio sort of this trend where Google's really pushing people to use web apps, and
they are.
You know, there are a lot of advantages. There's a lot of disadvantages. This, I think, eliminates a lot of those disadvantages.
I think the disadvantages are covered because of the fact you can, in fact, run your own server for, you know.
There you go.
It's kind of cool.
We'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. But, you know, I think WebRTC deserves another look if you've been kind of shrugging it off like I was. And I'm thinking now, like, how am I going to integrate this?
Right. It's like, how can I totally do this? And I can see some.
How can I integrate into our downloads? How can I take live calls with this? How can I maybe one day replace Skype with this? Because, you know, the fact that it's once the connection is established, the fact that it's peer-to-peer is going to a lot of times provide you with better video bandwidth and all of that kind of stuff.
That's right.
And there's a lot of interesting development tools built into Chrome where you can get stats and stuff. In the show notes, I've linked to an ebook that is free. That is the second edition. That gives you a ton of information about WebRTC if you want to look into it. And I've also got linked in there about a 45-minute Google I/O presentation on WebRTC that is really fantastic. They go through. They have some really good slides that I've linked to in the show notes too that help you work through some of this stuff. And they've got even more demos in those slides, including some examples of the code. You know, I'm not a developer, but the JavaScript code required to do some of this stuff is really straightforward. Like I looked at some of this code and said, yeah, you know what? I could figure that out.
I could drop that in. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
And you could see it you could see how easily it's going to be rolled into WordPress plugins.
Right.
And, you know.
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
It's just getting started, Matt. So 2014 is going to be the year of WebRTC, I say.
It will.
All right, Matt. Well, that's the Linux Action Show's look at WebRTC. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Should we do some emails before we go? I picked out Charlie's email here because I felt his pain. He says, since the Ubuntu 12.04 upgrade, Ubuntu no longer has anything suitable or stable.
Well, okay.
Arch and Gen 2 have trouble also. Debian Stable and Crunchbang works, but they're old. Red Hat Enterprise and CentOS and Slackware are also very old. Slackware is also too much work to get a full set of applications. SUSE is also lacking in apps. So who do I turn to anymore for a reasonably modern, good running system with a decent desktop? They've even hosed up things like Elementary OS with the latest 12.04 update.
I guess I would need to know more context of what makes something suitable or not suitable. Because, I mean, I'm not really...
Maybe this will give you some insight. He says, I've been thinking of your commentary, Chris, about Fedora 20 and GNOME. I downloaded and tried it. I really don't like their desktop, but I will agree that the Fedora core is useful and modern. If we could only have somebody take Fedora as a distribution base and then boost it up to available applications to match those of Ubuntu, and then slap a decent, acceptable desktop on that, we'd really have something. They could beef up the Mate desktop or put Cinnamon on this distro, and it would really go over well with the public. I mean, a polished desktop is really something people want.
Yeah.
And also... we must make sure that the development of this new OS must be community-based effort so that we don't lose control of the desktop or to those mobile fanatic terrorists. It's not hard to see, and this is an interesting point, and I think this is maybe the point that kind of stung a little bit. It's not hard to see why FreeBSD and PCBSD are climbing in the opinion polls. Is it possible that we are witnessing the death of Linux due to overdevelopment and the desire to go mobile with everything they do? Linux, a free OS, destroyed by money?
Disagree. For one thing, for what you're looking for, honestly, I'm not really sure why Linux Mint wouldn't be kind of what you're aiming at, just because you're kind of like wanting to get away from what I assume is the Unity experience and some of that stuff. Linux Mint Debian Edition. I mean, I don't know. There's a few.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few different spins you can go in that direction on that. Otherwise, I'm not really sure I understand exactly what the falling apart is. I mean, you're not an Ubuntu person. I get that, but
I think
it's like I don't know. OpenSUSE has got the.
I kind of feel them. I got problems with KDE. I got problems with GNOME. I got problems with XFCE. I got problems with LXDE. I got problems with Awesome. I got problems with i3. I mean, should I go on?
Yeah, no,
I kind of see where he's coming from.
I guess so. I mean, if it's like there's certain tasks that are being inhibited, then I get you. If there's even a user flow that's being inhibited, I get that too.
So here's
But,
what it comes
you know,
down
I don't
to.
know.
Is every operating system for me has problems. I guess I'm just picky.
Yeah.
Turns out. And what Matt just said hit it for me.
Yeah.
So when I look at the Linux desktop, I say, do I have workflow problems? Occasionally. But
Okay.
at the end of the day, there's nothing that actually prevents me from doing my job. In fact, it fundamentally enables me to do my job. I could not do what I do without Linux. And so I do agree that we're kind of in this weird phase where Ubuntu is sort of popular, but man, is it just, maybe it's because I'm running Arch these days, it just seems so old. And Fedora seems good, but it doesn't actually seem like they want it to be used by average people all the time. And Mint is good, but if I'm going to use Mint, why not just use Ubuntu? Even if you know, I just run XFCE or something. So what I look at is this is the funk we pay. This is the price we pay right now for this funk. However, you look at where we're moving towards with all of the innovation around the lower level stuff that we've talked about before on this show. The direction that the GNOME project will eventually go into. And the direction KDE is, I think, on right now is fantastic. They're taking the 4 series, they're saying, all right, let's make this 4 series as rock solid as possible, so that way when we start working on 5, we're going to have an island of refuge for those of you who can't handle all the problems with 5. Yeah. And 4 is going to be there. I think right now, those of us who know are aware of all of these problems, but I think 6 months from now, this is going to be a completely different conversation. And a year from now, we'll look back and go, man, remember when we had all those problems?
True. Yeah. I mean, for myself, I just really haven't had that many. The only things I've really ever had headaches with are, the sound issues in KDE. That was like my most recent headache. Outside of that, I just really haven't had a lot of troubles with it. But my workflow is probably different than yours, so I can't speak to that.
I think your Mint Linux, your Mint Debian edition is a good one for Charlie.
Just to kind of mix it up, because I'm trying to. It's like obviously Ubuntu's not palatable, and at the same time, going with other distros isn't really it either. And Debian's got a nice stable base to it. It's got, fair application base.
So I think the thing Charlie's picking up on is there are. I mean, when he's talking about witnessing the death due to development focus on mobile, he's talking about GNOME and Unity.
Yeah,
where you go Linux Mint.
You're going Cinnamon.
They're focusing on the desktop. They are not focused on mobile. And
Cinnamon is a pretty damn good desktop.
And they're using Debian, and Debian has got no ulterior motives, right?
No.
They don't have some sort of vision that they're going after for the mobile devices. They are making a general purpose platform that anybody can use. So Charlie, I think those two things together kind of fit your checklist there of things that are bothering
and that's Linux Mint's underlying ulterior motive too. Is I think should Ubuntu just go completely back crap, they can go Debian and have already have something established. I think that
says it's funny. It's funny. Chat room points out that the guy wearing the red hat is the one recommending Debian.
I know, right? Trolling. No.
Actually, there's Fedora spins. And if you liked Fedora,
sure.
Go look at some of the spins. Maybe somebody has spun a Fedora for you that you will enjoy.
Well, and there's like RPM Find and whatnot. There's a lot of places to get RPMs outside of just the repositories for Fedora. So, I mean, you just do a little shopping around on Google, you'll find something.
Now, Matt,
yes.
If people want more Linux, if people want even more Matt and Chris,
yes,
I have a recommendation for them. Can you guess what it is?
I'm gonna put on my thinking cap, and I believe it happens on Tuesdays.
You are right, Matt. That would be Linux Unplugged. I just want to remind folks that you can go grab. We have 8 episodes now of Linux Unplugged, and I think every one of them has been fantastic.
Yes, they have.
So go pick out your favorite episode and listen to it, and then join us every single Tuesday. I would love to see some of you join us on the Mumble server. So
that'd be cool.
We have a component to this show that is sort of different from every other show we do, where we have an open Mumble room that we bring in people's opinions when we're talking about things. And that is a great opportunity. Like when we just talked about WebRTC, if there's an amazing WebRTC use case or web app out there that we didn't know about, you could join that and tell us about it. Think of our Mumble room as like a Linux users group for the internet.
That's right.
That's
really what it is.
It really is. It's like Lug 2.0. And if you want to hang out on there and just be around with a bunch of other like-minded Linux users, chat about all of the minutia of Linux that most people don't ever even think about, that's the place to do it. We have the Mumble Room gets rocking before the show, and it continues to rock after the show. And we even jumped on it during Unfilter last week.
We did?
Yeah. So it was good stuff. It's fun. So there's lots of reasons to join live, but that's just one extra one. So go check out Linux Unplugged. Also, if you need another item for your docket, the Faux Show is back.
Ish.
Episode 147. Angela and I updated you on what the crap she and I have been up to over the summer. Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
so that was a fun
Good stuff.
episode, and we both had a few too many drinks.
Awesome.
Just
That
gonna
makes
put
for a
out
good show.
there. Yeah, it did make for a good show. All right, just a couple bits of fundamentals. You can join us live on Sundays to watch this show. Go over to jblive.tv at, 2 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m.
So, I don't know. Just go to the
10
homepage and
Yeah.
let the little calendar
Let the
thing
calendar
do it for you.
But we do it on Sundays, and then we release the show for downloads
Yep.
a little bit after that. And you can also email us, linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or pop that contact link at the top of our website. Choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down and put your message in there. And we also have the BitMessage address, which I didn't get to any BitMessages today. I guess I'm a bad person, man.
Oh.
I apologize about that.
Well, maybe on the Unplugged.
And I also want to remind you we have torrents of this episode available if you'd like to help us defer our bandwidth costs. You
Yes.
can torrent it, including just grabbing the torrent RSS feed. And that's usually one of the first places the show
Yeah.
becomes available, too, even before it's like up on the YouTube.
I think that's probably the best way to do it because that way, not only are you encouraging the use of the torrent, but you're also giving everybody kind of a little bonus.
And if you are a pioneering spirit and you are like one of the first handful of people to get on that torrent, we have a web seed, so you still get like awesome download speeds.
Yeah.
And
That's really cool.
Yeah. So you get all the benefits of web. So if you ever jump on the
Nice.
torrent and it's like nobody seeding, then you get it from our CDN. So it's kind of like when it's best case scenario because you can either help distribute it peer to peer or you just get it from the CDN if nobody else is doing it.
Solid fallback.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good way to go and helps us out a lot. All right.
Good stuff.
Okay, Matt. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's Linux Action Show.
Yes.
We'll see you right back here next Sunday.
Wow.
Here's what we got coming up in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Pancakes. We're going to talk about pancakes.
And more pancakes.
Yeah,
And
then
butter.
and then, if we have enough time, we'll talk about bacon and sausage. All right, ready when you is.
Okay. We're good.
Oh, yeah.
That's the stuff.
You wish. Look how many damn shows we got now.
Holy crap.
Since the
we got
last
a lot of
Linux Action Show. Look how many
Holy
squares are on that
moly.
page. Look how many damn shows we got now. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Too many shows.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough pancakes.
Mm-hmm.